For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you really run out of time? And we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school? Did you?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Monday, everyone. Happy New Year, and welcome to the third season of Richard Skipper Celebrates. And what a great week we have to start off. I am so excited today that we have the incredible Pamela Meyers waiting right here. And here she is, directing Cincinnati. Yes, I'm so thrilled here. And I want to know, I always begin my show by, this show is all about celebrating. And
sure.
We're celebrating a new year. We just got through the holidays. And I want to know, what are you celebrating, Pam?
Being alive. And I'm not kidding. This has been a pretty bad year in the past, but we are alive, and I'm going to keep going, babe. I'm still here if I can remember the words.
Yes, yes. I tell you, I saw a bumper sticker the other day, and it said, and I'm going to clean it up. It said, if you can read this bumper sticker, you have survived a bleeping pandemic. But it spelled out the word. And I laughed out loud when I saw that. Because it sums it up. We've all gone through this. And I just cannot believe what we have gone through. And
I can't either.
And I look at Broadway. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just can't. I call it my own pandemic because everybody has their own personal stuff. And just a clue to that, it's just I want to dedicate this show to my sister Nancy, who we lost in September. And that was the biggest loss of 2021. I'm not going to dwell on it because she knows that I won't. She's terribly funny. And anyway, she loved all this stuff, and she's in heaven with all the other fun people, and Betty White and her are probably already besties. So that's just, that's really, I think that if we survive, I just talked to my doctor because I know I sound a little musky, a little smoky.
Well, okay. I want to tell you, I was watching Designing Woman the other night with Lauren Bacall, and I am really turned on by your voice today. I have to tell you.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Watching. Yes, and he was dear friends with Lauren Bacall. I was watching what I
know.
Yes.
I know. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, but,
well, it's just that I don't start rumors. I did have a very specific problem with my throat last year, a year ago, when I caught COVID before the vaccines. And that was a very specific thing where it paralyzed part of my my throat and my larynx and so on and so forth. Okay, I finally worked through that with therapy and got all the way through that. I've got my voice, believe it or not, almost completely back, but I have a sinus infection now. And I just talked to my doctor, FaceTimed with him before I'm talking to all of you in America or the world or wherever we're talking on the moon. And excuse me, if I jump under the table, it's for a little cough or I blow my nose or something. But this is not COVID. And he just reassured me that, this is a very different virus. It's just going around, but the Omicron is very contagious. It's not as serious if you've had the shots. He just told me that an hour ago. So if anyone can benefit from that, great. That's my advice for the day.
Well, and I just saw this one just before we went live, that Mrs. Doubtfire has made the decision to shut down just until the middle of March, which is a sad decision. Yes, but I think it's a smart decision.
Oh, I'm sure. If it's so catchy. I mean, seriously, what's the point?
What's the point? And something that we're not talking about, and maybe you can shed some light on this. Maybe you can't. I don't know. But no one's talking about the emotional toll that this is taking on Broadway. And not only Broadway, but the audiences that buy tickets to go see a Broadway show. You're sitting in the audience waiting to see a show. And then someone walks out on stage and says, "I'm sorry, folks, we will be giving you a refund, but today's show will not be happening." And it's just this stop and start. I feel it's like the little engine that thought it could. It's too much.
I know. Well, they just did that here in Cincinnati. And by the way, that's where I am and that's where I live. And so they just canceled Hairspray that was supposed to open tomorrow here at the Aronoff Center. And I feel very badly for all of those actors and the audience, of course. It's rough. So it's very real, and everybody has to make a living. The only blessing I can see about it for people my age is that, luckily we're on Social Security. We have pension. I mean, not that I don't like to work and get paid, but I don't have to support children and, have a career, essentially. So we're lucky, Richard, because we're this old. I don't know how old you are, but...
Well, Pam, I don't care how old you are ageless. In my Leroy said in a recent interview that I think you referred to those of us of a certain age as the cotton tops now. Is that right?
Well, that would be true. I mean,
but I want to ask you a question that I've asked in previous interviews. I have interviewed so many people from Cincinnati. What is it in drinking water that so many phenomenal entertainers have come out of Cincinnati?
No, let me test it. Oh, wow. I feel really creative now.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe you get bored and you just have to break out. And there are quite a few from, well, first of all, we did start the music theater program here in a college degree. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know. I think that was a fluky thing, if you want me to tell about that now.
Oh, absolutely.
It was just my age. It was in 1965. I auditioned. I had been starting to take voice lessons at the Conservatory Music, which is part of the University of Cincinnati. It's their music school. So I got a scholarship there. And it was a Jane Froman scholarship for my freshman year. And I auditioned. I could tell there was a little bit of a different kind of feeling in the room because you had to sing, something classical. And then I chose How Are Things in Guacamora because I didn't have that many things. I mean, I really wasn't studying legit yet. So I go in there and first of all, I almost ruined everything because I flunked music theory and they took my scholarship away from me that first year. And believe me, Clyde and Virginia Meyers were not that happy about that. So I had to pull up my socks. They put me in a remedial where I should have been anyway. And then I kind of got into it, but I had never done a musical before. But my teacher, Helen Laird, who was new there herself, knew these two guys, Norman Ledger and Deed Meyer, and they ran this small summer stock theater in New London, New Hampshire. And I think something clicked for her. She had been like an opera star in Germany and different places. And she instigated a music theater degree. And she thought, this girl, I was a natural, but I was not going to be a natural, an opera. I mean, I just would have had so few roles that I could really do. And I just wasn't interested in it. She could tell, I think, because of the forwardness of my voice. Mm-hmm. So she and the dean at that time, Jack Watson, had been a band singer before he was equipped to be the dean of a conservatory. He was a very good musician. And I think they started it. And when I was a junior, they took me out of Italian class. You have to take languages to be an opera singer. And I had took conducting, and I had all these things that musicians take, or if you're going to teach music. And they put me in ballet with ballet students. And that should have been filmed, actually. There are a couple more in town, but women my age. These were ballet majors. Hello. And I did my first show my freshman year called Riverwind. And it was a musical. And guess who was in it? Joe DeGenova, who turned out to be an attorney. And he was, for a while, a district attorney for the Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked with all kinds of unusual people. So that was it. I played an old woman, and I started playing character roles, the funny ones. And then they started throwing me in every show that they did at UC until I graduated. And Leroy Reams came back there, and for his summer working on this show that we had gotten in the school, the University of Cincinnati had bought it, and it was parked on the Ohio River, and it was authentic. And that was our summer stock. And Leroy and I played opposite each other. 3 shows, 3 musicals. He directed them, choreographed them. We played the drums once in a while up in the balcony. We did everything. And there were other musicals too that wonderful people were in. And that was it, man. That was the start. That's when I met Leroy. He was unbelievable. He was already had been on Broadway, and had worked with Julia Prowse and Sweet Charity and all these different things. So he's 5 years older than that. Sorry, Leroy.
Well, I want to ask you, Pam, I mean, early on in your career, when the obstacles were being placed in your way and the scholarship was taken away from you, what kept you going? What was the tenacity? Obviously, the bug was there. You wanted to be in the business. That keeps you going. But when people say no to you and things are being taken away from you, what was it within yourself that kept you going?
Well, probably that I really didn't think there was anything else I was really suited for, except maybe a nurse or something. I honestly did not know. I had never done a musical before I got to college, only like operettas. And I sang, of course, a lot. I mean, I sang around town, and local, my little town of Cleves and North Bend. And I sang in high school. We didn't do musicals there. I sang in all Ohio Youth Choir. I was selected for that and was a soloist. And that lots of things. I sang in choir all my life. My dad was the choir director for 20 years. And I think I started singing at 7. But I did not know I was going to be on Broadway. I honestly didn't, because I only saw the Ed Sullivan Show and the variety shows on television. But my sister Susan won a speech contest at a trip to New York, and she saw The Sound of Music and brought back the program and the album. We played the album. And that was kind of my first really hearing about New York specifically, because this is when I was like 15. before I got my driver's license. I couldn't even drive in town and see shows at the Taft or the Schubert Theater in Cincinnati. So I don't know. I wasn't very deep then, I will say. I did like to.
So you didn't really have a gauge of a world beyond the borders of Cincinnati. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't have that much of a gauge before my mid-teen years then, because, you know, it was in the early 60s then. Mm-hmm. And we didn't travel that much. We went to Lake Erie and for our vacation, which was fabulous, but it wasn't New York. And then also All Ohio Youth Choir, right after we graduated from high school in 1965, we had a European tour. And I was a soloist on that tour with a couple of other wonderful people. I'm still in touch with a lot of those people now, which is pretty amazing since we're all in our 70s. And
wow, that's amazing.
But that I think, you know what? I have a great love of choral singing. And I think that is very valuable for any singer. And that keeps you singing too, when you're not doing a job or, you know, something else. And you learn how to read music, and it's very helpful.
So do you have a particular moment or a recollection where you began to think that you were going to start pursuing work outside of Cincinnati?
Well, probably when I did Funny Girl at UC. It was the first production at any school. It was the first production, I guess, after the original tour, because Martin Tozzi, who produced it, was a graduate of Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, and our director, Paul Rutledge, who ran the department then, got the rights. And so when I was 19, the end of my sophomore year, I did Fanny Bryce. Now, here's the cool thing that we have come across in the past few years. My brother-in-law, Dave, and I've just found a whole bunch of other stuff I told Leroy about. My dad would film all the dress rehearsals of all the shows that I did in college and in summer stock, any place that he could get away with it legally, but they have no sound. So we're just silent movie. You know, this was the 60s. So that's, and we have gotten them now and put them on a DVD or a little one of those, I don't know, thumb drive things.
Wow.
And I tell you, that is a revelation to me, because I never really was conscious of them. I never thought of them. And we even have New London. Stephen was there. It was just Warner Shook. I mean, it's just a wonderful collection of things. And I'm going to have to find a way for people to see them. But, you know, I honestly don't know what you can show, because things are so legal or illegal to publish.
I don't know. We can premiere them here.
That could be a very interesting thing. Leroy might figure it out.
So so you eventually head out, and was it North Brunswick? I think you got your equity card. Am I correct?
It was, yeah, Brunswick Music Theater.
Yes,
it was called then.
Yes,
and Brunswick Playhouse. Vicki Crandall, was that her name? Who was the director there? Ran it. Excuse me. I gave a senior recital at CCM, and Lehman Engel, who was a very well-known Broadway conductor in those days, was at the school giving a seminar on, I think it was orchestrating, or I didn't even meet him until my recital. But Helen Laird, my voice teacher, knew who he was. And she brought him to my senior recital. And he is the one who contacted Gus Shermer, my first agent in New York. He knew him. He was going back So this man, Gus Shermer, called my parents, and asked about that, about could he meet me, because we didn't, tape or anything then. So somehow I got to New York. Must have been, boy, that was, I don't know, don't even remember how I got there that first time. Excuse me. I had never been on a plane before. Well, yes, I had when I went to Europe with the All Ohio Youth Choir. Was my 18th birthday. Okay. So Gus Shermer got in touch with Vicki Crandall, and I remember singing in his living room an audition for, he was on East 62nd Street. He had a brownstone. He had his office downstairs and his living room upstairs. And I sang, and she hired me for the season, and it was an Equity Theater. So that was how I had money, deducted every week from a check, and that's how I got started in the union. And that was funny because I did what's Once in Love with Fame? What's that show?
Where's Charlie? Where's Charlie?
Yeah, Where's Charlie? I played Amy in that. I played Gooch, which was hilariously fun. I played Winifred in Once Upon a Mattress. And then I was one of the hot box girls. I was in chorus and all the rest of the shows. I loved it. That was really fun.
But at that time, did you realize the importance of getting your equity card and what that would mean for you coming to New York to pursue a career?
No, not until then, honestly. Except I did work, David Canary was an alumni of of Cincinnati. And he was a wonderful singer, and he was an athlete, and he was famous then. He was already been in Bonanza. Yes. And he came back. Now is the time. Nancy, Gretchen Weiler. Is Cold Small. Oh, shoot. I'll think of that. I played a cocktail waitress or something, and he did that with us. And that was when I first, I'm not sure I even knew Leroy then. Maybe with Leroy. Then I really started becoming conscious of what it was like to be a professional in shows.
When you got to New York, did you stay with roommates? Where did you originally stay when you came to New York? And I know that you got a review at Upstairs and Downstairs. Was that your first professional job in New York?
That was my first professional job, because I think the sun is shining in my face. So maybe I'll just turn down this light a little bit, or else I'll have to get up and close that. It was, Gus Shermer got me that audition, and I went to that. And, that was hilarious. I was one of the sketches the other day, and the stuff I saved. Boy, it was very ahead of its time, too. Now, we are talking, this is highly weird for somebody like me who was so ignorant of and naive to be in a real progressive thing like at the Upstairs and the Downstairs, which was a topical review at the time, and then to go into company, because I got offered company while I was in there, because that's when I first auditioned. So it was that was a fun job, but boy, I learned a lot in that job on 56th Street, because we were in the upstairs room doing this review, and then the downstairs room, of course, was people doing cabaret acts like Joan Rivers and Felicia Sanders and these really interesting, wonderful people. Barry Manilow playing the piano, accompanying. I think Joan went and did her first appearance on the Johnny Carson show while we were there. I really learned a lot. I'll have to think of some more stuff about that. I'm glad you asked me about that, because I do have some matches or something from it. And Hal Prince, I'm going to move this a little bit because this light is, or else I will have to get up and change the sun or something. Hal and George Firth and Stephen Sondheim came and saw me in a show there. We would do 2 a night on the weekends, of course. And I think that was after I auditioned.
Mhm.
And that was definitely, I'm sure they saw me, in performance.
No, you went
Because-
in, you auditioned. I read that you auditioned with Little Green Apples. That was your
I did.
audition. Yes.
I did.
And did you? I mean,
You're
were
asking, well, why did she sing that song, for Pete's sakes? Because we didn't have a audition class yet in our music theater degree because it was only 1 year old. Now, wait a minute. This is bugging you.
No, you are perfect as you are.
Okay, as long as it doesn't catch my eyes. I might have to put on, does anyone still wear a hat? Baseball cap.
Well,
that we
that's
got
fine
when
too.
we did the reunion. Mhm.
You're perfect. So when you went in and you auditioned, were there callbacks? Did you get cast right away? And I know that you were told that
You're talking about company?
company.
I auditioned and you had to go out on this stage, a bare stage. And I'm pretty sure Fiddler was running then. So it would be in one of the shows that Hal was, Hal was producing, because you would go in there and there was a light bulb, the work light right there, and a piano. And the lighting is really bad when we used to audition that way. And there would be just like 3 or 4 people sitting out in the house. And that was the creatives, Hal and Stephen and George and Ruth Mitchell, who was a production stage manager for Hal, and Randy Edelman, who I went to college with, played these auditions for me. I also was on the Merv Grill the first time even before. I've got to move this because it's now really starting to drive me crazy. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Anyway, Hal came down the aisle.
Leroy said to turn on the turn on the light. So
what?
I guess if you turn on you got a ring light.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe turn that on, and that might make a difference. So.
No, it's just coming. Wait a minute. Anyway. Okay, I'll just hold this for a while. It's the sun. When the sun moves. So I sang Little Green Apples, and I sang Shy from Once Upon a Mattress. And I had never done an audition for a Broadway show or anything before. It was my first one. It was so fresh when I came directly from Maine to New York, and 2 young women. One had been a classmate of mine. She was actually in opera. And the other one was the Golden Girl baton twirler from Indiana U. And they contacted me and said they needed a roommate to make it 3 so we could pay the rent. 1 bedroom, by the way, with 3 single beds in there. So that's how that's the first place I lived in New York. So Hal and Steve, Hal came down the aisle and he said something to the effect of, Steve, can you write a song for her? Or can we do something with her? I can't remember the exact words. And I didn't know what to do. So I figured, well, maybe I'll get called back, because I had no frame of reference at all. And I did get called back, and I think they gave me some dialogue that Amy, a couple of the other parts, because my part had not really existed yet. It was a part of one of the single women, but she had been a New Yorker. So they decided to revamp it and make her new to New York, like me. And I am so enamored with the city and how wonderful New York was. And it was pretty much me, to tell you the truth. And
Absolutely.
some of the items in the speeches were, I think, came from stories that I was telling about, like the 14th Street story. And anyway, it came very naturally to me. And the song Another 100 People, the last audition I had, Sondheim came up to me afterwards and he said, I wrote you a song. And it was how I found out got the part.
That's amazing.
Whatever the part was. I don't even know that I knew her name yet, because I don't think I had the script. I don't think I actually saw who the part was really until the first day of rehearsal.
So the first time you hear this song, and it's a song that is written specifically for you, for your Broadway debut, you've just arrived in New York. You pretty much have just gotten your equity card, not that too long ago before this. I mean, talk about a whirlwind experience for a young actress just hitting,
I know,
just happening. I mean, talk about a fairy tale existence.
I know.
And it just doesn't stop there. You get a Tony nomination.
I know. Which was crazy. That was crazy, because it wasn't hard. It wasn't a stretch for me, really, to do that, because it was so much like me. Well, but that was really fun, going to that and experiencing that. And I was having my tonsils out the next morning.
Oh, my.
And so I really couldn't drink any alcohol. I didn't have a very good time at the party because I had to leave and go back to bed.
Your tonsils were being taken out the morning after the show opened on Broadway?
No, after the Tony Awards, by the way.
After the Tony Awards. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but there's a lot of aspects to this story, because I got married the next morning after company opened. And that was probably not a great idea. And that was not, in fact, entire marriage was not a great idea. And that was a long time ago. And it was not Max's dad or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So that's just a whole other story about
another chapter in your book.
That is a huge chapter, but that was one of the things we learned. One of the reasons I can say I was so naive. And
well, of course,
he was a waiter.
This is a major impact on you. Let's talk about the impact this makes on you as an actress. This happening. What is the major impact this had on you as a person that it's carried through your entire career? Because there are certain things that there must be expectations that come with a career that you expect are going to carry through with a career, with everything that you do from that point on. Highs, lows, expectations, disappointment, all of those that swirl around. If you can talk a little bit about that for a moment.
Well, one of the things I learned from that is that it was really operating out of fear, because I was so swamped and overwhelmed with living and getting through all of that. I needed somebody to take care of me, is essentially what it was. And I had no experience. I mean, I didn't even know how to get to the club. I mean, I was living on the East Side. I don't even think there was a subway you could take home. Then late at night, I would get off work very late and have to get home by myself. I was very new to New York. I didn't really know anything. It was a person who was a nice guy, was a waiter at the club, and he, was trying to be an actor, and he was charming, and he didn't really do anything wrong. It just was not the right time. And my boyfriend was Randy Edelman at the time. And he had been, in school with me, and he was so wonderful. But he didn't have a job yet. And he's since become really well-known and famous as a music writing scores out for his own benefit. I mean, a singer recording. And just so much happened to me within literally 3 months. And I'm not kidding, because by 3 months I was hired for company. I had to come home and have all 4 of my wisdom teeth that were impacted removed and go back to New York and start rehearsal for company, which of course was so far ahead of its time. I had no idea what that show would be like and how people would react to it, because, I thought it would be The Sound of Music or Gypsy or West Side Story or, Once Upon an Actress or Mame. I had no idea, believe me. And then when I met all my friends and the rehearsals and people cutting things and putting things, it was almost more than I could even absorb. So, I don't even want to say anything bad about anyone. That wonderful guy. I mean, he was just a nice guy. And we did not have any children, which is, wasn't appropriate at the time. And anyway, that is that in a nutshell, except for the next day. Excuse me. The next day after the opening of company, I got married at the Plaza Hotel. It was a small wedding, but my parents were there and my sisters, and Donna was there. It's kind of a blur. And that night, of course, I had the second night show of comedy. And the more I think about it, oh my goodness. Hal Hastings was the conductor at that point. Was the conductor in the pit. And I started to sing Another 100 People. And all of a sudden, I did this bizarre thing and went into a half step up in the wrong place. A half step up, so that sounds like you're singing in the wrong key. Well, Hal Hastings almost levitated out of the pit. He came to me in intermission and said, "What happened to you?" And I didn't even know at that point. But after the show, some person in the audience came up to me and, "Miss Meyers, you are so versatile. And Sondheim writes with such dissonance. How did you ever learn that song?" And that is a quote. How did you ever learn that song? So I marvel at it myself, because it was, how did I ever learn it in the first place? Because it was written in a different key. I have the original music here. And the first time Sondheim played it for me, I guess he wrote it in a key he would sing it in at home, maybe. But it was so high, it scared me to death. And I thought, oh no, it was like, it was a minor third higher, or a major third higher. I can't even remember now, but it's in my, I'm going to sit down just to rest. And,
Okay.
whoa, okay, I'm going to move over here. There you go. That's
Great.
better. So kind of.
Well, I want to revisit 2 other points of view with company, and then someone has a question that I want to ask here as well.
Please.
We run out of time. But then you were responsible several years later of bringing everyone back together again for the reunion.
I know that was a fluky thing.
Well,
Well,
what was
I'm
that
really-
experience like, bringing everyone together again?
That was mind blowing. And I have a bunch of wonderful pictures of that too, because I was doing Sweeney Todd at the time up in Cherry County, Michigan, with George Hearn.
Return.
And, I had done a lot of I was doing Sweeney's and Gypsies and a lot of Sondheim stuff. But I had moved from LA to Ohio, back to Ohio. And it just occurred to me one night, because I think I heard about something on, television or something about Broadway Cares or it was, that would have been early 90s. And a lot of people, as we know, that was timing for AIDS and stuff like that. A lot of people we knew. And I just kind of wanted to see my friends because Beth and I had been such good friends. And she had married Charlie in the meantime, and they had met on Company, Charlie Kimbrough. So I called up Barry Brown. He was now the producer at Long Beach Civic Light Opera. Marty Wiviet had been the producer there before, and I had been chosen to do the part of Dot in the West Coast first, the Los Angeles, essentially.
Stop for just a moment, because someone just said, if possible, can you talk about Pam playing Dot in the West Coast premiere of Sunday in the Park? And also, David says hi. So that's from
great. Thank you.
Yeah, Ben Glenn II says that. So,
thank you.
Anyway, thank you. If you can just talk about that production for just a second.
Wow, that was staggering. I get this call. I had Max was 15 months old. It was in 1986. And I offered the part of Dot. Well, that floored me because I was never offered stuff like that, really, a part like that. And of course, I wanted to do it. So I worked it out. My mother came out from Ohio to be there to babysit for Max while Jim was working. And oh my goodness, that Franz Hoder cast me. Now he had worked with Sondheim on some other projects, so he had to get there okay. And so he did, obviously, and they cast Robert Yacco in the part of George. And I think that actually was one of the parts that really changed my life too, because no one expected me to be cast Dot. And it was the Broadway set and costumes and all of that stuff. And it was thrilling to do. And I think that's actually when I grew up really as an actress, because I had always been doing parts that were, or not always, but I was always being offered parts. I had not done Sweeney Todd yet, or those parts. And they were very much like me, like Marta, those kinds of things. That's even really what I was offered in television. So, to be able to play Dot was just a thrill. It was a gift. And Sondheim sent a couple of spies out because he couldn't come and see it in Lapine. And I understand they were satisfied and liked it a lot. And you'll have to ask Franz Hoder more about that.
Wonderful.
Honestly, that was thrilling. I do have a DVD of that. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to see it. Those kinds of things. Well, I haven't even listened to it myself.
Okay. But to get back to the reunion, you were the mastermind behind making that happen.
Yeah, because Barry called me. I came back to Ohio, and Barry Brown called me. He says, "Pam, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do the concert, and you can call Charlie and Beth and tell them." I was like, "Oh, okay." I remember I was in my kitchen on Shaw Avenue here in Cincinnati. Max was a kid then, and it was 1992 or early 93, because then we ended up, it was so successful and we ended up doing it at Lincoln Center, Vivian Beaumont Theater later in the spring on Easter Sunday. We did 3 performances, though, I think. And that was really fun. And we have, there is some footage of that we got. Somebody took it from the audience, but I'll tell you this. I am pretty sure, I don't know for sure, but I think it was supposed to be for a great performances. And at the last minute, it was not done because of, I don't know, a deal or legal or something. But that would have been so fun to actually have that,
And then
I need my sunblock. Luckily, I put it on every day.
And then continuing on, you were just not too long ago in New York for the current revival. You got a chance to see that.
That was fun.
And those photographs, I saw you with Leroy and Donna and Barbara Barry. And what was the experience like seeing a completely different rethinking of the show? And thank God Sondheim was able to see this production before he sadly left us. And
thank God.
Yes. So, and I want to talk about him for just a moment as well. But what were your thoughts on the new production?
Well, first of all, it was so thrilling just to be there and to appreciate how unbelievable the show is. Mm-hmm. I mean, the script, the score, every time the orchestra started, I would just tear up. I get so choked up, I couldn't stand it. And then my mind went through this entire, you're like, wait a minute, adjust. The person playing my part is no longer a woman and has a different name. And so all that, like, done, me and Susan Browning were now men. I mean, they're just different parts. And of course, Bobby is now a woman who had been Dean Jones. And I was thrilled hearing it, seeing it, being there and everything. But it was so different that I think it's like apples and oranges. I mean, it all works. The songs are just so beautiful. Now, mm-hmm. I saw then another version on YouTube lately about how it being in Spanish, and that's very different with Antonio Banderas directing it and playing the part. I directed the actual very first version of what we did at Xavier University a couple of years ago, the first time I ever directed anything like that. And I thought it was brilliant then because we actually kept it in that time frame of 1970. And college kids are like, it's a foreign land to them. I mean, I thought they were wonderful too and grasping of it. I think anybody would love Company no matter what, because it's so authentic about relationship.
Well, I want to talk about two very special men, and my show is about celebration, so I don't want to do this on a sad note.
I don't have any fireworks here, but
we are our own fireworks. So I'm not.
We are.
I don't.
Wait a minute.
I want to celebrate them, and these are two men that were important in your life.
Oh,
and the first
sorry.
Is, Harvey.
You've never had an interview like this. Know it.
No, you're wonderful. You so much. Harvey Evans.
Stop it.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Harvey Evans.
So much. I want to ask you what you learned from him as an artist and what you learned from him as a man that you will carry through your entire life.
Well, first of all, Harvey was so well-rounded. He had so many talents as a performer. I mean, he could play anything. And as a person, he was just so kind and genuine and generous and sweet and funny. And I think one of the reasons we were such good friends is because we both came from Cincinnati and the West Side, actually. And I didn't even really meet him other than probably opening night of Follies in New York, because we were still doing company then. And we, as a cast, were invited to the opening night of Follies, which would blow anybody's mind. And so I didn't actually work with Harvey until the early 90s. Or no, late 80s. I can't even remember what year, because we did a review, Donna McKechnie, Terry Ralston, me, Michael Byers, and Tucker Smith, who also was a Jet with Harvey in the original West Side Story movie. And we wrote this review out in LA. I was still living there then. And we did it, an equity waiver in those days. And Let Me Sing and I'm Happy was the name of it. It was Gershwin. And that was so wonderful to do. And we staged it and everything. And Alan Johnson, his very good friend too, helped us when we moved it to a different theater up in San Francisco, near San Francisco. That's when we first became very good friends. Harvey, he replaced Tucker because Tucker got ill, and they were very good friends. So he came and replaced his part in the production in San Francisco, and we became really good friends then.
But you also did Dolly. You did production of Dolly together.
Everything I did with him was so fun. We did a concert of Hello, Dolly. Sarah Boone hired us to do that down in Jacksonville at a theater down there, Theater Jacksonville, and a fundraiser. And that was heaven, because he was a great Horace Vandergelder. I played Dolly. It was just a one night performance. And she had us back to do Sondheim, side by Sondheim. We did that concert down there, and that was really fun because we did a lot of, different takes on some things. And oh gosh, he was just one of my best friends. And Donna is one of my best friends, and we all have such similar experiences working in Sondheim shows. And then Leroy Reams, because he was here too. They actually knew each other from taking dance lessons from a couple of the same teachers here in Cincinnati. They did the Cincinnati Opera dancing when they were younger. There's just a lot of connections. And now
we're going to celebrate Harvey on Friday night on this platform at 7:00. Everybody, please come back.
Yes, everyone, please.
Come back. Yes, you'll come back. And I also want to ask about Stephen Sondheim also. Again,
I know.
what you learned from him that you will carry through in your life. What we know him as this iconic figure, bigger than life, but you knew the man. So
I didn't know him very well, honestly. I don't know that anybody did until in my position. But boy, I had some really wonderful, interesting think back. He was so, you must pay attention because nothing is random that he was writing. It was very natural, but because sometimes it's hard to sing naturally in the rhythm of conversation, it looks weird on the page. It's 7/4. These lots of different things. Not that 100 people was, but there's a lot of syncopation and changing keys and this but it is so smart and nothing is superfluous. I thought he was one of the most emotional people I have ever worked with. Not that he showed it, he wrote it. And I never understood, after what we went through putting together company, why, he was labeled cold or distant or whatever in some of his earlier stuff. And I mean, have you ever heard anything more truthful or emotional than Being Alive? Or Children Will Listen from Into the Woods? And then I'm old enough to have met his mother, Foxy. So I didn't know her, but I met her, and I had a couple of experiences being around her at his home, which, believe it or not, this is how green I was. I dropped in at his house one day when I was in company, knocked on the door, and this wonderful Louise, who worked for him, was his housekeeper. And he came to the door. He was always so polite. And I don't know if Sondheim was home or not, but excuse me. I might have to jump under the table for a second. Take a cough or something.
I might go with you.
I really did not realize that the sun depends on the timing of these interviews and stuff, I'll remember this next time. He said he wasn't home, but he invited me in. Louise invited me in, and he served me some cake. And I'll never forget that, because I thought, later, and how famous Sondheim was and everything, and the stories about him and spending time in this, I just thought, oh my gosh, what did I do? I was so naive.
Well, Pam,
Gosh,
I just absolutely, I love you so much, and I am so thrilled that you said yes. And I want to thank Linda Pearl. Linda, my dear
Linda Pearl,
who said, yes, we both love her.
She is fabulous.
She said, have you thought about having Pam on the show? And I said, I'd love to have Pam. So she is the Dolly Levi who
she is.
She put her hand in here and there and made this happen.
Well, she's a doll anyway.
Yes,
and she's a wonderful singer.
Absolutely. I saw her at Birdland just a couple of months ago. But don't go anywhere for a moment. I want to thank everybody for being here.
Please.
And yes, thank you for being here today. If this is your first time here, my hope is that it won't be your last. My show is all about celebrating. I celebrate artists. I celebrate art. I celebrate life. There have been over 350 other artists. Check them out. And if you see that they're performing anywhere or doing a television appearance, movie, or anything, take the time to spend with them. And I know that I can speak for Pam when I say this. Leroy, all of us that are in this business, when you take the time to spend with us, we don't take it lightly. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list, and the third name that pops up, reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call.
Yes,
and
you're absolutely right.
And tell them what they mean to you. Because as our dear friend David Friedman always says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. Now,
absolutely.
Now, Pam, I'm going to leave the screen, and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, or anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message, or even a New Year's greeting for everyone. You've got the final word. Don't worry about how to end the show. When you say goodbye, I will end the show. Pam, I love
Okay.
you, and I will
I
see
love
you
you
back
too.
here
This
on
is
Friday
so
night.
wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I just want to say that support live theater, give to the Actors Fund. They support everything from the retirement home where Harvey was living, for every actor in need, and I benefited from it one time when I was living in LA between jobs. It is the most wonderfully run charity, first of all, and you cannot go wrong by supporting live theater. And cherish your family, cherish your friends, go to the theater, wear your mask, whatever it takes, because once live theater is not here anymore, believe me, it will be a huge loss and you will really miss it. So many children respond to theater, by the way, or musicals that don't respond in a lot of other ways. So I advise you, I have 2 little grandsons. I just adore them, and they are going to be exposed to theater their whole lives, I hope. And I wish you the best year. Don't even think of them as years anymore. I don't. I just think of them as fortunate time on earth to learn something, to be better, to be kind to everyone, and learn what you can and pass it on. So happy new life, being alive. I'm still here, and do your best and support each other. Lots of love, everybody. Bye-bye.